What if Ahsoka and Padme died during the Clone Wars? Let's explore the depths of this scenario in the video. Anakin rushes down the steps of the Twilight as soon as they reach the landing pad of the Naboo Royal Palace, carrying the Reeksa root in his hands. Captain Typho comes out to greet them, but Anakin stops short when he sees the man's face. The captain shakes his head sadly, causing the Jedi to freeze in his tracks. For a moment, everything in the palace is still, as the gesture hits Anakin like a blow. He stumbles back, but then demands to see them. Although Typho tries to dissuade Anakin, telling him that he needs to rest after a long journey, the Jedi is insistent. The captain finally relents only when Anakin prepares to brush past him. In the morgue, the bodies of Ahsoka, Padme, and the others are laid out on the tables. Anakin's heart freezes as he sees them, their faces a splotchy white and marred with dark lines, while their eyes stare blankly at the ceiling. It's a horrific sight that chills Anakin to the bone. He tries to approach Padme, but then feels his legs buckle as he falls to his feet. Obi-Wan appears behind him, placing a hand on his shoulder, but his voice seems far away.
Anakin.
He can hardly focus on him. His mind is elsewhere. 1,000 thoughts ring through his mind. He recalls how he promised to prevent those he loves from dying, and feels tears filling his eyes as he tells himself he's failed. But as grief races through him, it's followed by a burning rage. No, this wasn't his doing. They shouldn't have died like this. No one should have died like this. But they did because the Separatists allowed a madman to create a weapon as horrific as this. Because the Separatists had little regard for the lives of others. Because this war was their excuse to get more. The whole room begins to shake, leaving tables rattling and lights shaking above as the anger courses through him. Obi-Wan stumbles around trying to calm Anakin down, but barely stays upright as Anakin lets out a scream. The force of the sound sends his master crashing to the floor while the doors shatter behind him. When Obi-Wan regains his bearings, he sees Anakin walking past him, practically burning with rage. He calls for Anakin to come back, but it falls on deaf ears as the young Jedi disappears. Hours later, Obi-Wan finds Anakin on the bridge of their ship, already planning their next battle strategy.
Anakin, you need to rest. After everything that's happened, going on like this isn't healthy.
I don't need rest. I need to act.
I understand your anger, but now is not the time to act.
Padme, Senator Amidala, and Ahsoka died because we didn't act quickly enough. I can't let that happen again. Not ever. We need to end this war as quickly as possible to prevent this from happening again. He turns his attention back to the holonet as the ships prepare to move out. Despite calls from Obi-Wan and the Jedi Council for Anakin to take a leave of absence and recuperate, the young Jedi refuses and insists he will continue to serve on the front lines. Although they have misgivings, they cannot force him to stay back. When Anakin returns to active duty, he is drastically changed from the reckless but noble Jedi who entered this war. Instead, he is vicious and vindictive, focused on nothing but destroying the CIS and ending the war. This leads him to act far more ruthlessly, employing brutal and aggressive attacks that keep the Separatists pinned, but also resulting in heavy losses. Even when capturing territory, Anakin behaves closer to a dictator than a peacekeeper, brutally punishing any dissent and forcibly pacifying the territory he captures to bring it under Republic control. This bothers the Jedi Order, who sees Anakin falling to the dark side and giving in to his anger. Although they try to control him, nothing dissuades him from his mission. Even the threats of expulsion do little to stop him. As far as Anakin is concerned, his only mission is to defeat the CIS and end the evils they unleashed. Although he doesn't admit it, he also blames the Jedi and Obi-Wan for not doing enough to end the war. He says Obi-Wan's caution and the Jedi's unwillingness to do whatever it takes to end the war was to blame for the prolonging of the war. But Anakin also blames Count Dooku for allowing monsters like Loch Durd and Vindi to conduct their vile experiments. This obsession reaches the Count's ears, who sees this as an opportunity to capture one of the Republic's greatest heroes and stages a trap. After capturing a planet in the Outer Rim,
Anakin discovers information in the databanks that Count Dooku is visiting a planet on the front lines to rally their troops. Instead of waiting for reinforcements from the Jedi, Anakin takes his flotilla and moves ahead to engage this small force. Anakin stands in the war room of his Venator-class Star Destroyer, preparing his troops for the ambush. But as it returns to normal space, he hears his crew reporting they are facing an entire flotilla of enemy ships instead of the small escort he was expecting. Some officers urge him to retreat, but Anakin shakes his head and orders them to advance. Turbo laser fire pours down on his fleet as the CIS ships advance, their lines closing into a tightly formed phalanx with fighters zipping between them and adding to the confusion. Anakin tries to organize his fleet defenses, placing them in a wedge formation as they rush the CIS, using surprise and aggression as their weapons. He manages to batter through several CIS ships and destroys them, blowing a hole in their defenses to the massive command ship in the rear. Anakin grits his teeth as he orders an advance. However, their momentum begins to slow as the Separatists rally. The droids react with unusual speed to his aggressive tactics and begin to close their ranks and surround him. Anakin's jaw clenches as he realizes Dooku baited him. But retreat is not an option. With grim determination, Anakin presses forward. Unfortunately, any momentum he's had is now lost as the droid ships surround and fire upon him, allowing boarding craft to land aboard his capital ship. Anakin orders his troop to repel all boarders and runs out to join the troopers. But before he can leave, a CIS boarding craft slams just outside the bridge where a figure leaps out.
Dooku.
Dooku strides onto the bridge, his cape billowing behind him as he stares at Anakin. His curved lightsaber ignites with a familiar crimson glow.
Skywalker, you've become quite predictable.
Anakin ignites his own lightsaber.
You'll pay for what you've done, Dooku.
Anakin lunges in an overhead strike. Dooku parries the attack and sidesteps, letting Anakin's momentum carry him forward. The Count whirls just as Anakin comes at him in an angry flurry of vicious swings. He dodges each attack and then slides behind the holotank, forcing the Jedi to chase after him. Once there is some distance between them, Dooku unleashes a barrage of lightning at him. Anakin is forced to halt and block the attack. This gives the Count a chance to rush forward, his lightsaber flashing in a set of quick thrusts. Each move is elegant and perfectly placed, putting Anakin off balance. Rather than retreat under the attack, Anakin snarls and pushes himself forward in another vicious attack.
You let monsters like Vindi and Durd kill innocent people. You let them kill Ahsoka. You took everything I cared about.
His attacks move with blinding speed, but none of this dissuades Dooku, who never fails to block.
Your anger blinds you, Skywalker. That is why you will never win.
Anakin lets out a roar of frustration, bringing his lightsaber down in a heavy arc. Dooku sidesteps, and in a single fluid motion, unleashes a burst of Force lightning. The electric surge strikes Anakin, sending him crashing to the floor. Hours later, Anakin awakens in darkness. The cold, metallic walls of a Separatist cell surround him. His hands are bound, and Dooku is sitting cross-legged in front of him, taking a deep breath.
So, you've awoken. Come to kill me? On the contrary, I've come to offer my condolences for your Padawan. I understand that loss, and you have my sympathy.
There was no mockery in his words, or judgment, just sincerity. This only enrages Anakin further, who struggles against his bonds.
Sorry. Sorry is all you have to say? You planned on releasing those weapons across countless systems. You were willing to kill billions. I admit that trusting Vindi was a lapse in judgment. But allow me to make amends by offering you a way to unleash that anger. Join me as my apprentice, and I shall tell you everything you need to punish your foes. Trust you? I'd rather die. That can be arranged, my boy. But I would rather keep you alive, for you still have a role to play. I shall give you a few hours to think about your decision.
Those few hours turn into days, as Anakin refuses this suggestion, and soon those turn into weeks, and then months. Anakin is kept as a prisoner of war. Although the Jedi and the Republic try to ransom or rescue him, Count Dooku refuses to release him. He knows keeping Anakin like this is a huge blow for the Republic, as he is one of their most valuable prisoners. But while this remains a bright spot, the war slowly begins to turn against Dooku, and he suffers setbacks. The biggest of these is the loss of his apprentice, Ventress, when Palpatine orders him to execute her. This leads him to take a replacement student, Savage Opress. Little does he know that Savage is a spy sent by Ventress to help her destroy Dooku. Although they fail to defeat the Count, Savage manages to escape. He stumbles through Dooku's flagship. Savage recalls the prisoner Dooku likes to keep in torment for his amusement and turns around, heading from the hangar down to the holding cells. Anakin remains in the same cell, his arms bound and his body gaunt, but the fire in his eyes remains strong as Savage cuts him down.
Join me. Help me escape and we shall destroy Dooku.
Anakin takes a step forward, eager to join the battle, but then stumbles as fatigue overcomes him.
What are you waiting for then? The Count is too strong. We must regroup and gather help. I know where to go.
Reluctantly, Anakin agrees, and the two make their way to the hangar where they find a ship to get them out of there. Savage takes them to his home planet, Dathomir, where the Night Sisters are waiting for him. They surround the pair with bows and vibroblades drawn. Anakin responds by preparing to channel the Force, but a voice calms them down.
My son, you have returned, and you have brought a companion.
A foe of Dooku, and one whose hatred of him runs almost as deep as ours.
Then he shall be our honored guest.
The Night Sisters relax and take them in, allowing the pair to rest and recuperate from their injuries. As they get some food, Talzin discusses with them their next move. Although Dooku survived their assassination attempt, she still had a plan to defeat the CIS, and that was by finding her son, Darth Maul. While Savage undertakes this task, Talzin offers to let Anakin stay here and recover if he joins their group. With nowhere else to go, Anakin agrees, and Talzin becomes a master of sorts to the young Jedi. She begins teaching him the ways of Force magic, harnessing its dark energies to serve him. Anakin has long been teetering on the edge of the dark side, and now fully embraces it. He channels these dark powers to his side and studies closely with the Night Sister ruler. Soon he becomes an adept warlock and even manages to survive the massacre of the Night Sisters. Shortly afterward, Savage returns with Maul, who is ready to fight. But once again, Talzin refuses to allow Anakin to join them as they begin the next phase of their plan.
Master, I am ready to go. I saw my people wiped out. Let me avenge them alongside my brothers.
In all due time, my boy. There is a time and a place for everything. And right now, the galaxy believes you are dead. Let us keep this advantage for a little while longer.
Reluctantly, Anakin agrees and continues his training. The Night Sister's magic offers a perfect outlet for his aggression, giving him opportunities to channel his grief in a way that can accomplish something. Not only can he summon dark magic, but he can also channel the dead, like old Draka, and fire bolts of lightning. This comes at a perfect time, as shortly after, Talzin learns that Maul has been captured and Savage is slain. At this moment, she decides that it is time for Anakin to reveal himself. But before he goes, Anakin feels Talzin grabbing his hand.
Before you leave, you must learn the truth. You have been pursuing a shadow. Count Dooku is nothing but a pawn in a game far greater than you can imagine.
Dooku is the leader of the Separatists. He's responsible for the war, for all the suffering.
No. Dooku is a weapon meant to cause suffering for the Sith. The true power is his master. The true ruler of the Sith.
Who?
Chancellor Palpatine.
Anakin's heart skips a beat. Then he shakes his head in disbelief.
That's impossible. Palpatine's been guiding the Republic since the war began. He's...
A Sith Lord has played both sides, orchestrating the war, manipulating Dooku, and using you as a pawn. Ask yourself this. Whenever the CIS launches some brutal attack, who gains emergency power or control of something new?
The Chancellor. How do you know this?
He once offered me power. Offered to make me his partner in this endeavor. But instead, he stole my son. I will not forget such a crime.
Anakin struggles to take all this information in. He's always remembered the Chancellor as a kind and selfless man, not the type to start fights. But perhaps that's what made the cover so perfect. And not only that, but he also managed to acquire power while allowing someone else to take the blame.
What do you want me to do?
Go to Ord Mantell. There you will find the remnants of Maul's Shadow Collective. Rally them, for together you will bring balance to this war.
Anakin's starfighter streaks toward Ord Mantell. As he lands in the capital, he finds the city in chaos as the remnants of the Shadow Collective are leaderless, disorganized, and in disarray. The once feared leaders of the underworld, the Black Sun, the Pike Syndicate, and the Death Watch are all arguing in the main hall, debating their next move. Some want to leave and return home, others wish to sue for peace, and others want to fight. Anakin strides through the crowds and raises his hands, throwing the guards aside as he approaches.
Maul is gone, and we don't answer to the Jedi.
Anakin's lightsaber flashes to life in an instant, the crimson blade casting a glow over the warriors. The leaders fall silent and stare at the weapon. Anakin's gaze is nearly as piercing.
I'm no Jedi. Not anymore. You'll follow me, or I'll end this rebellion myself.
There's a moment of tension, the air thick with potential violence. A few enforcers suddenly get up and rush at Anakin. The young Jedi smirks and anticipates this, swinging his lightsaber in a few lazy strokes, deflecting attacks and cutting them down with ease. As the smoke from their bodies clear, Gar Saxon and the other leaders bow their heads.
What's your plan? We're going to free Maul. Take your men and loose him. The rest of you will remain here and organize the defenses.
Anakin immediately gets to work, putting the remaining Shadow Collective warriors to work building fortifications and gathering arms. He knows it's only a matter of time before the CIS attacks, and he contacts Mother Talzin for support in the form of the Night Brothers. All of this arrives just in time as Maul returns to Ord Mantell and reports that the droids routed one of their camps and are heading this way.
So, the young warlock finally reveals himself, and so the old fool is finally out of prison. I suppose now that you're here, you can help us. I will command the space battle. I trust you to oversee the ground forces. Consider it done.
Anakin stands atop the central command tower, overlooking the sprawling fortifications his forces have erected. On the ground, Mandalorians, Black Sun soldiers, and Pike enforcers move like ants below him, hurriedly as they prepare for the inevitable attack.
The CIS will hit us hard. We're ready, but without Maul. Maul isn't the key to this battle. I am.
Suddenly, the sky above them erupts in a blaze of fire. CIS ships drop out of hyperspace, their turbo lasers lighting up the surface. Explosions ripple through the outer edges of the city, sending debris flying. The bombardment begins. The bombardment lasts for only a few minutes, but the effects are devastating as they leave large swaths of the city in ruins. It is only the first step as the droid army descends. Hordes of battle droids, droideka, and tanks advance across the scorched ground. The Shadow Collective stands ready, their makeshift defenses barely holding together under the relentless assault.
Hold the line!
His lightsaber flashes to life, cutting through the first line of droids before throwing a powerful burst that throws them back. Behind him, explosions rip through the air as artillery rain down on both sides. The Shadow Collective, though fierce, is outnumbered. The thugs and criminals Maul gathers are seasoned killers who cut the droids down without mercy. They rally behind Anakin, who carves through wave after wave of droids, his lightsaber a blur of blue. But even he knows it's not enough.
We're losing ground. The artillery is tearing us apart from space. Not for long.
He stretches out his hand, feeling the dark side surge through him. He draws on his anger and his frustration, and with a forceful motion, the earth beneath the droids begins to tremble. The ground splits open, swallowing entire squads of battle droids into the abyss. But it isn't enough to stop the onslaught. The droid army keeps coming, stepping over their fallen comrades in a relentless march. Anakin knows the Shadow Collective won't hold for long under this pressure. Then, suddenly, the sky darkens. An ominous wind sweeps through the battlefield, carrying with it the distant roars of beasts. Anakin senses it. Mother Talzin's reinforcements. From the darkened horizon, a new force arrives. The Night Brothers, fierce and primal, charge into battle. Although armed mostly with clubs, staves, and swords, they hack through the droids like a whirlwind, sending their metallic bodies flying. Talzin's power hums through the air, amplifying Anakin's command over the battlefield. With a single gesture, he raises his hand, channeling the dark energies through him. The fallen warriors of the Shadow Collective, the Mandalorians, the Black Sun, and Pikes, begin to stir. Their bodies, lifeless, rising from the ground and charging at the droids with the same cold efficiency as the machines. With a roar, Anakin charges forward, leading his resurrected army straight into the heart of the CIS forces. Blasters fire, lightsabers clash, and droids fall in droves. But as the victory seems near, a familiar presence enters the battlefield. Count Dooku descends from the skies, flanked by battle droids. His eyes lock onto Anakin and shakes his head. He readies his lightsaber and points at the former Jedi.
Skywalker, you've grown powerful. But power without control is dangerous. You should have accepted my terms. You won't control me. Not anymore. You took everything from me. Now I will take it back.
The duel begins with a flash of light as Anakin moves at blinding speed, his lightsaber moving in a crisscross movement. Dooku blocks these and weaves around Anakin's aggressive style. Each movement is precise and tries to push Anakin to his limits. The difference is that now Anakin has had time to learn, and rather than losing himself in rage, he meets these attacks cautiously. Letting his strength show rather than back down, he meets it and blocks the attacks. Their blades clash in a flurry of blue and red, sparks flying as they push each other to the edge. Dooku's calm demeanor begins to falter as he realizes the depths of Anakin's newfound strength. The dark side pulses through him with every move, growing stronger with each attack. The sensation feels far more natural to Anakin than it ever could to Dooku, as Anakin shoves him back and at last goes on the offensive. Dooku, for the first time, is pushed onto the defense. Suddenly, a burst of energy from Anakin sends Dooku stumbling backward.
You've become more powerful than I imagined.
Anakin stands over him, his lightsaber pointed at the fallen Count. His breathing is heavy as he orders his men to take the Count prisoner. Meanwhile, in space, the battle is also going well for Maul, who disables most of the CIS fleet and deactivates the droids. Maul and Anakin do not celebrate their victory for long, though, as they know there is still work to be done. They leave the Death Watch in charge of repairing and refortifying Ord Mantell, while they take Grievous and Count Dooku back to Dathomir with them. They return to the Night Sisters' sacred ground. Even after making some repairs, the place still bears the scars of battle, with blaster marks and ruined structures everywhere. However, the most sacred spots have been cleaned up for the ritual. Talzin is there waiting for them, smiling regards to their prisoners. She directs them to take Dooku and Grievous over to an area marked with dark green lines carved to create a pentagram. The air is thick with tension and magic as Anakin and Maul look at one another, and then at their prisoners before hauling them over there.
This will be the greatest challenge of our lives. Palpatine is not like the others. He won't fall easily. And if I know my master, he is already on his way here.
Palpatine will come. He knows of our plan and will fight with all his might. But with the essence of Dooku and Grievous, we will have the power to defeat him. You must hold him off until the ritual is complete.
I've waited for this moment for years. We'll give you the time you need.
As night falls, The trio feels a ripple in the Force, as if a shadow begins to wash over them. The feeling is cold, oppressive, and powerful. This leaves no doubt that Palpatine is here. The three stand and prepare for battle, readying their weapons while Talzin floats over to their prisoners and begins to chant. The pentagram grows a bright green, leaving the ground glowing. Slowly, Palpatine steps out from the darkness like death himself. His yellow eyes gleam dangerously as he looks over at them with a sneer.
Skywalker, Maul, you've gathered quite the entourage. But do you think you can defeat me?
You taught me betrayal, Master. Now it's your turn to fall. And deception. You've lied to me for years, but today we shall finally have the truth.
With a flick of his wrist, Palpatine's lightsaber ignites.
Then let us see who the true master of the dark side is.
Anakin and Maul charge Palpatine. Their lightsabers whirl in unison, but Palpatine raises his weapon and blocks both attacks. He moves with a grace that rivals even Dooku, with his movements impossibly fast and fluid. Gritting his teeth, Anakin advances, his strikes relentless as he tries to break his defenses. Maul is just a step behind, ferocious and swinging his double-bladed lightsaber in a wild arc that aims to confuse Palpatine. Palpatine laughs, though, as although he's given ground, he doesn't seem bothered by their attacks and continues to defend against them.
You're nothing without me, Skywalker, and you, Maul, are but a failed apprentice.
At the very least, they keep him away from the ritual, slowly forcing him toward the entrance. Meanwhile, Talzin's hands glow with dark energy as she chants in the ancient tongue of her people. The prisoners scream and convulse in pain as dark green mist, their very life essence, peels away from their bodies. Palpatine senses this and redoubles his efforts to reach Talzin. He throws a force push that sends Anakin and Maul tumbling. The Night Brother manages to right himself, leaping back to his feet and rushing forward. However, he stops short as Palpatine unleashes a storm of lightning, sending bolts raining down on them. Maul and Anakin must duck and weave out of the way to avoid being struck. However, a bolt eventually strikes the ground they are standing on and sends them flying. Anakin writhes in pain as electricity courses through him, while Maul tries to crawl forward. Palpatine casually steps over them and smiles.
You cannot stop me, boy. The dark side flows through me. I am the Sith.
Not for long.
With a powerful incantation, Talzin rips the life essence from Dooku and Grievous, their bodies withering as their power flows into her. Her form glows with dark energy and then begins to channel the newfound power. Anakin hobbles over to her side and takes her hand, feeling the energy course through them.
Now, Skywalker, channel the spirits.
Anakin nods, closing his eyes as he taps into the ancient magic of the Night Sisters. The ground trembles beneath him, and from the shadows, the spirits of the dead Night Sisters begin to rise. Their ghostly forms swirl around Palpatine, clawing at him, pulling him toward the abyss. Palpatine snarls defiantly, his lightsaber slashing back and forth against them, causing some spirits to dissipate instantly. With his free hand, he unleashes a torrent of lightning, sending them flying back as he shakes his head.
You shall not take me.
Despite his defiance, the dead are overwhelming, reaching over his attacks to tighten their grip around him as they start to pull him away. He screams as his form becomes less solid, starting to be lifted off the ground as he's carried off to the afterlife. Anakin and Talzin use their combined power, pushing him further and further until his screams echo through the night. With one final surge of dark energy, the Night Sisters drag Palpatine into the void, his form disappearing into the abyss as the air grows still. The battlefield falls silent. The spirits of the Night Sisters fade back into the shadows, satisfied at the offering the ruler of the Night Sisters has made. Maul stands over them and grips his side.
Not even he can survive that.
At last, our people have been avenged.
Anakin extinguishes his lightsaber, looking out over the broken landscape of Dathomir. The galaxy will never be the same.
No. It is now ours for the taking.
That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.